dynamic equations, remember we represent the derivative into the difference by using the delta t. So we get the update equation is a discretized update equation. And also for the cost function, we also need to discretize the cost function. So essentially, we change the integration into a summation. So by discretization of the problem space, we discretize the problem space. So the control input has been discretized to a set of control inputs. So for example, in the 1D path planning problem, we only got 3 control inputs, but the U0, U1, and U2 that may get the vehicle to the destination at a time equal to 6 seconds. So also in the pendulum problem, we can discretize the control inputs to n. So we only use n inputs from U0, U1 up to UN minus 1. So that will get the vehicle, get the pendulum to the final destination. So this has been our solution to the problem. So now the question is, can we deal with or can we solve the problem without discretization of the cost function and the constraint equation? So can we directly use the differential equations as the system dynamics, and can we directly use the analog cost function, the integration, for example, the integration cost function to solve the problem? So the solution is yes. The answer is yes. Then the solution will be the calculus of variations. So the technique of calculus of variation is try to find an optimal solution to the problem of minimizing the cost function, the analog cost function, subject to differential constraints. So remember our previous problem formulation is like this. So in the previous, in the past couple of weeks, we deal with a problem like this. We try to minimize a scalar function with a set of input of u. So this input is belongs to R, for example, Rn. So it's n-dimensional space. So we got n discretized input. So this has been the problem formulation. So we subject to some constraints. So the constraint can be represented by a differential equation like this. So we have this f u smaller than or equal to 0, and we may have multiple constraints. So this has been the problem formulation. The solution to this problem is to construct h equal to this j plus lambda f. So from this, we can set the dh, du equal to 0, and dh, d lambda equal to 0 in the equality constraint. So this has been the techniques that we discussed before. So today we want to discuss or deal with the problem like this. So we also want to minimize some cost function to design the path. So for example, you want to minimize the time in your control. You want to minimize the energy in your control, or the traveling distance of your vehicles. So now the function is represented by, so the first part is related to the final state. So if we define the state vector, we define the state vector with x at the time tf. So this is the final time. The final time. So the state corresponding to final time. So you know the first function define the values, define the equations corresponding to your final state. So plus something corresponding to from the starting point to the destination. So from the t0 to t equal to tf. So just arbitrary function, define arbitrary function of time. The lt is the arbitrary function dt. So we use this cost function to represent the final state. The final state corresponding to the destination and also the state in between. So here we do not define the initial state because the initial state is not something that we want to control. So we optimize this function with a u, but here this u is a function of time, the continuous function of time, subject to the dynamics of your system. Remember, the dynamics can be represented by a differential equation. So the x dot equal to this f, so multiple equations. So the f is a function of the state vector and also the input. So if you compare the two problems, you can see the two problems are very similar, but this one is in the format of discretized input. So we got n input here, but here the control input is a continuous function of time, and also the constraints of your system is represented by the different equation, the dynamics of your system. But here it's represented by some algebra equations. So these are the basic formulation of the problem. So the problem can be formulated like this. So the problem formulation for the calculus variation is like this. So the problem formulation is just similar to here, but I just redefine the function to represent all the variables. So we want to optimize cost function. We want to minimize also a scalar function of G. So the first part is related to the final state, the destination. So I define this side. State tf. So I define this tf to be the final time. And define this x is the final state. use the state vector to represent the system. So it's plus from T0 to Tf. The T0 is the initial time. It's our initial time. So we define a function. So you can define an arbitrary function to represent either the time or the distance or the energy or anything else that you want to represent. So this function is a function of state, the state xt, and also the control input. So we have this control input dt, so it's integration. So we use the integration to represent some accumulate values. You know, the energy, the distance, the timing. So all this can be represented by this format. So we solve this problem by using this control input. So this ut, this control input. So now the control input is a function of time. So it's the main difference from before. So it's a function of time. So we are going to, so the solution to this problem will be a continuous function as a control input. So this is a cost function, subject to the dynamics, this dynamics of the system. So the dynamics of system, we just represent the dynamics into standard format of a constraint. So we know our constraint has been some f equal to 0. So we can represent this to be f is f xt ut. So this f we define at here, f minus x dot equal to 0. So now we have the format, the standard format of a function equal to 0. But the main difference between the function here and the function we used in the previous techniques is now the function is differential equations. They are differential equations. And here we just define the algebra equations. So now we formulate the problem as a minimization with equality constraint. So the problem is essentially a problem of minimization with equality constraint. But here the constraints are the different equations, and also the cost function is a continuous time function. So the solution to this problem, the format is quite similar to the techniques that we used before. So to solve the function, we also construct the Hamiltonian. We can also construct Hamiltonian. So we construct the augment cost function by using the Lagrange multiplier. So in the solution to this problem, we require some mathematical derivation. So you will see a lot of mathematics in this lecture. So we define the argument for the solutions to this problem. We define the argument cost function. We define this argument cost function. So it's quite similar to the function we defined before, but we also see the difference. So we define this JA is equal to, so we know the first function, this should be in the format. We know the JA is in the format like here. So we augment the cost function by using the original cost function and Lagrange multiplier with the constraints. But here, remember that the first one is only related to the final state. So we are not going to augment this part. But instead, we want to augment the control between T0 to Tf. So to make it simple, I just ignore the dependence on the variables. Here we have this L. So we augment the cost function from here. We augment the cost function by using the Lagrange multiplier, this lambda and F. F is defined by this F minus X dot dt. So if you compare this equation and our previous equation, so you'll notice that the only difference is now we augment the cost function inside the integral, and we have the same format. So the L is our original cost function, and we have the lambda multiplied by F. So for the F, we have the format right here. So it's F minus X dot. So the F minus X dot equal to 0. So that means this part is actually equal to 0 and the solutions. So the solutions will not affect the original function. So this part will be 0 when the solution is limited. So we augment the cost function in this way. So it's similar to our technique here. So we have this equal to this sign plus this to integration from T0 to Tf. We have this L plus this lambda transpose F. So this minus lambda transpose X dot dt. So now we define this. We define this to be H. We define this to be our Hamiltonian. So the H. So this H is equal to this L plus lambda transpose F. So the H depends on the L. Remember that this L depends on X and U, X and U, and also the F depends on X and U. And here we introduce a new variable lambda. It also depends on lambda. So the H depends on these three set of set of parameters. So we have our GA equal to the first part. This just depends on the final state. So I put XF. Remember that this XF means x at P equal to F. So I just use another notation for this company, XF in the final state. So this plus the integration from T0 to Tf, this H x u lambda minus this lambda transpose x dot dt. So we have this. Now we have this augment cost function. Augment cost function. Then the necessary condition. The necessary condition is to have a perturbation. It's not a GA equal to 0. So this will be our necessary condition. So we will derive our necessary condition by using this equation. So the dot JA equals 0 for any small perturbations. So we need to evaluate what is the delta GA. So the delta GA is defined by the derivative to each variables multiplied by a small perturbation to the variable. So for the first one, this will be the derivative is d psi dxf is transpose multiplied by the perturbation on the variable. So it's delta xf. So this is the perturbation to the first term. Secondly, we need to do the perturbation for all the variables. So the H depends on 3 sets of parameters. So we have to calculate the derivative to each of the variable. So the dh dx. So the first one dh dx transpose multiplied by delta x plus the dh du delta u. So plus the third one is dh d lambda delta lambda. So this for the first one. For the first one. It's for the first one, we define the perturbation to be the derivative multiplied by perturbation on each variable. So similarly, we have to do the same thing to the second term. So it's a minus. So we perturb the first one. Multiplied by x dot. We perturb the first one in terms of lambda multiplied by x dot plus we perturb the x dot will be lambda transpose multiplied by delta x dot. So by using this equation, we evaluate the perturbation, small perturbation on the augment cost function. So in this equation, we can see the perturb on the final state, on the state vector, on the control input, on our Lagrange multiplier. It's a Lagrange multiplier. But the last one is a perturb on the x dot. It's a derivative of the state vector. So this one is very difficult to evaluate. So this one is very difficult to evaluate. So in order to solve this problem, we need to use another equation. So remember, you learn this equation in your technical math. So it's an integration by paths. So integration by paths tell us something like this. If we do an integration for product, the first function is u, the second function is v. The product of uv, but the second function got a derivative. So the derivative of this equation can be evaluated. So we can see this, try to address this problem. So the u is the lambda transpose and the v is delta x. So this equation is given by this u multiplied by v is d0 df minus the integration from d0 to df is a u dot v dt. So the motivation for us to use this equation, use the integration by plus, is trying to remove the perturbation on the x dot. Perturbation on x dot, because x dot is very difficult to evaluate, to perturb. But we want to, in this case, we want to shape the derivative of this dot into lambda, so that we can. We only got delta x at here. So this is a motivation for us to use this equation. So by using this equation, we can address this part. So this part is the integration d0 to df. So we have the lambda transpose delta x dot dt. This will be equal to, so just by try to simulate the equation of integration by parts. So this will be lambda transpose delta x. We have delta x and here, so the x are vector. So this one evaluate the boundary from d0 to df minus integration from d0 to df. So it's lambda dot. So we can shift the derivative to lambda and delta x dt. So this is our integration by path. So by substituting this part into our augment cost function, so we almost got our conclusions. So the perturbation of augment cost function is given by, so the first part corresponding to the final state, so it's the psi dxf multiplied by delta xf. So this from our first equation at here. So plus. So remember, in this part we got this term out of our integration. So this term will be out of integration, and we got a minus at here. So this will become minus lambda transpose delta x evaluate from T0 to Tf. So this plus the integration. So from T0 to Tf, then we have three terms for h. This will be dh dx delta x plus dh du delta u plus dh d lambda delta lambda. So this is the three terms from h, and here we have this one, so it's minus delta lambda transpose x dot. So this is the term from here, and our last one is the term from the integration by path, and here is a minus, and we got another minus at here, so we got a positive lambda t delta x. So for in this equation, we can slightly rearrange the terms. So for the equations outside the integral, we have the d psi dxf delta xf. So the second one, lambda delta x d0 df plus integration from T0 to Tf. So for the terms including delta x, we have this dh dx transpose plus this one also for delta x. So it's lambda dot transpose. So this multiplied by delta x. So this one for delta x. So plus for delta u we only have this one. Multiplied by delta u for this one. For delta lambda, we have these two terms. We have these two terms for delta lambda. So it's d lambda transpose, so multiplied by delta lambda. But this one got delta lambda transpose. So because the product is a scalar. So we want to change the order. We want to change the order between the delta lambda and the x. So we can apply a transpose. Right here because it's a scalar. So the transpose is equal to itself. So we can apply a transpose at here because it's a scalar. So in this way we can change the order. Then the first one, this one will become minus x dot transpose. And multiplied by delta lambda transpose and transpose. So the transpose will be removed. So this multiplied by delta lambda. Right? So we want to change the order between these two terms so that we can combine them. So it's just a scalar. So for a scalar, the transpose that's equal to itself. So we have the x dot transpose. We change the order and we put the transpose and here. So we get this one. So this multiplied by delta t. So for our necessary condition, is to have this delta GA equal to 0 for any small perturbation. This to be 0. That means this term must be equal to 0. So all this term must be equal to 0. So to evaluate the necessary condition, so the first one for delta x, for this one to be always 0 for any small perturbation, delta x. The first term must be equal to 0. So for this one, if we want this dx transpose plus lambda transpose multiplied by delta x equal to 0 for any any small perturbation delta x, then this one must be equal to 0. So we must have this dh dx plus lambda dot equal to 0. So for this one, in order to make this term for any small perturbation to be 0, so we must set this one equal to 0. So for this one equal to 0, we have the lambda dot equal to minus dh dx. So we have an equation for lambda dot. So we know that lambda is a Lagrange multiplier. So actually this equation defines the dynamics. So this equation defines the dynamics of Lagrange multiplier. Lagrange multipliers, because now the lambda is a function of time. So you remember in our previous techniques, the lambda is just a value. But here, the lambda is a function of time. So it will be changing with time. So the lambda got its own dynamics. And the dynamics of lambda is given by this minus dh dx. So this for the condition for delta x. So secondly, the condition for delta u. For delta u, we must make this dh du multiplied by delta u equal to 0. Also for any small perturbation delta u, so this will require this dh du equal to 0. So from here, you know we get the same equation as before. You remember previously we defined our Hamiltonian. So the necessary condition is dh du equal to 0. So you remember, and here you remember that we define the Hamiltonian, we have the condition of the dh du equal to 0. So here we have the same condition, the dh du equal to 0. But the difference is that the solution to this one will be this u star will become a function. So it's a function of x and lambda. So now the u is not a set of values, but the u become a set of equations of time. And this set of equations will be depending on the state vector as well as the Lagrange multiplier. The Lagrange multiplier is also a function of time. So this one is the optimal control. The optimal control is a function of the state. The state vector, we know we define state vector to be x. And the Lagrange multiplier and the lambda. Because now both x and lambda depend on time. So these are trajectories. The trajectories. So it's a function of time. X and lambda both depends on time. So thirdly, so in this equation we have dealt with the delta x, delta u. So the last one is the delta lambda. So for delta lambda, we require this pH, the lambda transpose minus x dot transpose multiplied by delta lambda to be 0. Be 0 for any small perturbation. It's for any small delta lambda. So this one is for any small delta u. For any small perturbation delta lambda, then we must have this dH, d lambda minus x dot equal to 0. So from this, we have the x dot equal to dH, d lambda. So here we got another equation that the derivative of the state vector, given by the derivative of h in terms of the Lagrange multiplier. So what's the meaning of this equation? So the meaning of this equation is given by this d lambda. This h, remember that we defined the h to be L plus lambda f. Remember we defined the h to be in this way. So these are our h, Hamiltonian. So if we calculate the derivative, then the first one, the L is independent of lambda, so the L derivative will be 0. So the lambda transpose to lambda, you will got identity matrix. So this will eventually give you the F. So the F, remember the F depends on X and U. So actually here we got the equation is X dot equal to F X U. But this equation is actually not new. It's not a new equation. It's not a new equation because we define this equation in our dynamics. So this is the same equation. In the dynamics, we have the same equation that x dot equal to f. In the problem formulation. So these are our dynamics of the system. So these are the main equations that we are going to solve. But this is only half of the story, because here you got the differential equation. To solve all these differential equations, remember you need boundary conditions. For different boundary conditions, you will got very different solutions. So finally, we also need to define our boundary conditions. So for the boundary conditions, we need to evaluate the terms out of the integration. So we already deal with all the terms inside the integration. But for the terms out of the integration, we have the we need to deal with this d psi dxf delta xf minus the second one is a lambda f delta x at time of df plus at the time of t0, so lambda t0 delta x is 0. So we determine the boundary conditions from these three terms. So the last term will depend on the delta x is 0. So this one for delta xf, so we can combine the first two terms. So this gives us d phi dxf transpose minus lambda transpose df. So this multiplied by delta x df plus this lambda t0 multiplied by delta x 0. So the boundary conditions depends on the initial condition and the final condition. So the boundary conditions are actually related to the initial condition and the final conditions. Initial condition and the final condition. Remember in our example, so for example in the pendulum problem, we define the initial condition to be at an angle 0 with the angular velocity of 0. So the final condition we define the pendulum must be at a particular angle and with the velocity 0. So these are the initial condition and the final condition. So the first situation is if the x0 is given, x0 is given, I would say x0 is fixed. If x0 is given, it's already given, then x0 is fixed. So that means you cannot perturb the x0. So this means the delta x0 equal to 0 because it's fixed. It's fixed, so for this one will become 0. So this one is 0. We have for this part, in order to make this part to be 0, we have this lambda 0 to be free, actually can be any value. So this one is 0, so the lambda t0 and delta x t0 will always be 0. So these are always 0 for any lambda t0. For any lambda t0. So we have this lambda t0 is free. It's free. Free means it's free to take any value. So the initial value for your logarithm multiplier can take any value if your initial state is given. So secondly, if the xf in the final state is fixed. Final state is fixed. So for example, in your pendulum problem, the final state is given. Your final position, your final velocity data. So this one is fixed. This one is fixed means this delta x df is equal to 0. So this one is 0. Then this term will be always 0. Always 0. So this lambda df can take any value. So in this case, this lambda df is free to take any value. So the third situation is if the xf with the final state is not given. So if this one is free, so we can perturb this x df. So this one is not 0 at the moment. So in order for this d psi d xf transpose minus lambda df is multiplied by delta x df. So in order to make this one equal to 0, the necessary condition will be this d psi d xf minus this lambda f. So this must be equal to 0. So from here we can decide the final state for the Lagrange multiplier. So this lambda df must be equal to d psi d xf. So the fourth situation for the boundary condition is if the x0 is not given, if x0 is free, if x0 is not given, then we have this delta xp0 is not equal to 0. So in order to make this lambda transpose p0 delta x p0 equal to 0, in order to make this one equal to 0, we must set this lambda p0 equal to 0. So here we got quite a lot of equations. So I just summarize what we derived here. So if we summarize, we can see it's not so complicated to understand. So we have the equation, we have the x dot equal to dh lambda. So this is given by our initial dynamic equation. So this is given by this f x u. And the second equation is dh du equal to 0. So this will give us the optimal control. So the optimal control is a function of the state and the Lagrange multiplier. And another new equation is dynamics of the Lagrange multiplier. This lambda dot equal to minus dh dx. So these are the equations we are going to solve. And we also have our boundary conditions. Our boundary conditions. The boundary conditions is if the x0 is given or is fixed, then the lambda t0 is free. It's free to take any value. So if the xf is fixed, is given, if the xf in the final state is given, then we have the lambda tf is free. So if the xf is not given, in the final state is not given, then the final state of the Lagrange multiplier is lambda tf must satisfy the condition of b psi dxf, dxf. And if the x0 is not given, if the initial state is not given, initial state is free, then the lambda t0 must be equal to 0. So these are the solutions to our problems. Okay, so that's all for today.